Coming at you live from their secret location in an underwater bunker 2 miles off the Emerald Coast, it's Chimichanga Talk with your host, Deadpool Speaks.
And we're back for another round of podcasting. Is your host, Deadpool Speaks. And with me, as always, is the brave and mighty, brave and bold, Bad Juju. What's going on, Bad Juju?
Nothing much.
Did you?
Yeah, no, I did. I saw it a mile away, because...
Well, that's good.
I have a phone,
Yeah, well, here's the thing.
Okay.
That actually got you silent. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Today's episode of Chimichanga Talk is brought to you by our new venture. The gold card, Chimichanga Talk gold card, did not pan out too much, but that's okay because we got you covered, America, with our all new Chimichanga chickens.
Wait, what?
So here's the best part about this. Chimichanga chickens is your opportunity to go ahead and start getting your own eggs at a low cost. Why? Because you can rent out chickens from us. So yes, you can actually rent out chickens now, and we're getting into that business. Okay. I don't know if you knew this, but yeah, there are actually people that are out there.
You didn't tell me, because we'll be trying to already pay off the credit card, so we can't be pulling off these.
For all those people who did invest in the Chimichanga Talk gold card, I want you to know that you'll get extra discounts when using Chimichanga chickens. Chimichanga chickens is your way of going ahead and creating your own egg market within your home. Basically, we provide you a chicken at a low cost, only about $700 to rent. And not only that, but you'll get some chicken feed along with it. And, basically you get to go ahead and make your own eggs. Be like Farmer Brown. Now, we work on a rent-to-own basis. So if you are not really good at, basically farming for eggs, you could always have some chicken tenders later. That would be horrible. So. Don't do that. Yeah, please. No. We don't like to learn where we get our chickens from. Our chickens all come like that, okay? They come ready to eat. No. Don't know. But still, Chimichanga chickens are a new venture. So if you had your gold card, remember, you can go ahead and get it for less. But let's talk about some real news that people want to talk about. Right. This week saw the release of Daredevil Reborn. How was that?
Born Again. Reborn, yeah, same thing. But
no, you see, we're taking our own original spin on it. I didn't want to get sued, but thanks to you now, we're probably going to be demonetized and taken down. So go ahead. No. Okay. So, but yeah, you're actually watching the series, aren't you?
Yeah. Only one episode in, because I have a friend who's probably watching this who passed out after the first episode. I know who you are.
Oh, really?
I'm calling you out. I'm not gonna say your name. I'm calling you out. He passed out.
Like they passed out from like sheer shock, or just
I don't know. They passed out.
Violence.
Passed out before we got to the second episode. I know who you are.
Ah, okay.
I want to watch the second episode, but it's
okay.
really.
So you're basically waiting for them to watch it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But no, it's really good. Definitely, you could tell this is has a higher budget, way more produced, but still really good. It feels like Daredevil to me.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because a lot of us were left hanging with needs after the whole Netflix series kind of took a running crash. But it's good to see the whole gang back together again, starting to feel like home. And not only that, but there's been kind of like a couple of really cool shows and a couple of really strange releases that have been released recently. Like, actually the whole defunct CW, I think, scrapped Powerpuff Girls trailer was released.
And
have you seen that, by the way? Have you seen the trailer?
I've seen that, and I could tell it was not going to do too good. Already from how they were making the characters, it was not going to be too great
from the beginning. I would have picked to see though Mojo Jojo though.
I'm curious what happened to him. What possibly happened to him that caused such a devastation to the whole town that Mojo Jojo died? I don't know what
but
could.
another thing that was also like scrapped recently was the whole Tiana series on Disney Plus. Now, Disney
Oh,
Plus has been like hit or miss with certain things. Like the what was it, the Acolyte? I think was another show that was like it was like a
yeah.
in the Star Wars universe that I don't think did very well. They've had like hit or misses with like some of their hits or their hits. It wouldn't be a hit if it's a miss.
Yeah, true.
Um, but they decided to go ahead and scrap it. It was going to be on Disney Plus. Unlike some of these other ideas that they've had recently, kind of floating around, as far as what kind of programming they want to bring in. And on the other side of that script, on the DC side, we started to see some speculations, trailers, and rumors and innuendos about Batman: The Brave and the Bold.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Now it has like one of your favorite people in it, right?
Oh yeah. They both have I'm gonna say ankles, but Jensen ankle
Ankles.
ankles.
Yes,
I always say
he's a
ankles.
podiatrist.
He's a pilot. Yeah. He's helped me out a lot actually. I'm able to walk again because of him.
Yeah, there
He
you
also gets
go.
rid of Ghost. But
Yes.
and then also
Oh,
Lillard, Matthew
Matthew
Lillard.
Willard.
Yeah, he got
Matthew Willard's gonna be in it.
as
He's
Commissioner Gordon.
Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which that's something else. I'm interested in that. Even though I can never get the actor's name in my head. The guy who was in the Batman with Pattinson, who played Gordon. He did an
Hmm.
amazing job. Uh,
Oh yeah.
and it's always sad because someone gets replaced, and hopefully with both two Batmans coexisting with movies, it's not gonna cause a conflict like how Gotham and Joker had a conflict to where
Yeah.
one had to go, and that
Well, I
ended up.
mean, it's my understanding that this is going to be the Batman Brave and the Bold is going to be in the James Gunn universe.
Right.
So it looks like we're going to be going ahead and looking at that. While the Batman, which is going to be seeing a sequel coming very soon,
Hopefully.
yeah, they said. I mean, there could be some crossover, but I think they're going to go ahead and keep it, separated for right now, like a multiverse type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it should be interesting to kind of see where they take everything. I was like super impressed with the Batman.
Mm.
A lot of people, kind of gave him slack for that, and I personally loved the Penguin series. I
I
thought
have
the
not
series
seen.
was absolutely amazing. Yeah, the series is absolutely amazing from first episode to last.
And did you hear about
Um,
the Clayface thing they're gonna be doing? That's gonna be supposedly in the same universe with the Batman. It's gonna be
that's what
sorry.
I heard.
Uh,
Oof.
yeah. Allergy season. We're here. Yay.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Remember, get your hypoallergenic chimichanga chicken today.
it's
We
helped me
do
out a
have them.
lot. I used to be sneezing every minute, but now I'm just sniffling every minute. But
Yeah, so it's a downgrade.
yeah,
So,
it's a downgrade. Uh, but no, Clayface, where it's gonna be a psychological horror, if I'm correct. It's gonna be very
mhm.
psychological, and that's gonna be. Uh, I'm really curious, and I hope they have someone talented to do the soundtrack because I can already imagine it in my head with how Joker had that kind of dark, kind of
Yeah,
gritty soundtrack. I hope they do something like that with Clayface.
they keep that same feeling.
Yeah.
Um, and speaking of horror, another big iconic horror like series, I guess, was announced to be coming back to theaters, releasing in September 18th of 2026. That's according to Sony. Resident Evil
Oh.
is coming back to the big screen. And the thing is, though, this Resident Evil is going to go ahead and go back to its horror roots. So they say it's going to be like a lot more faithful to the initial games.
Mm.
So unfortunately, Lilu Multipass may not be in it. But it'd be really interesting to see. I think there was a lot of potential coming
Yeah,
from the original games, kind of exploring that option again with
it'll
the
be
whole
cool to
Umbrella Corporation and everything else.
it'll be cool to kind of
Um,
introduce people into the franchise without them having to play the game or watch a gameplay, not understand
mhm,
a single thing that's going on. I'll admit I liked I think it was a Netflix original back in
mhm.
I forgot when, because I loved the guy who played Wesker. I loved the main cast. It was really good. I loved the CGI. So I don't know what happened there, but something went wrong. But I'm happy that they're gonna go for the games now. It's gonna be a should be a ride.
It should it should be a fun ride. And going back to that, I mean, we have announcements going on to like Shrek 5.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since we visited the world of Shrek. But I used to love all those
Slightly.
movies.
We had Puss in
No, it's
Boots.
been a while.
We had Puss in Boots,
Well,
but
Puss in Boots. Okay, yes. I will
that's the
give it
only
that.
thing.
Yes, it's an offspring. Um, but no, yeah. What's her name is Zendaya? Zendaya.
Zenyatta, Zen
Zen Zucchini. She's gonna
Zucchini.
be joining. She's gonna be joining as a cast. We you know who we're talking about. Come on now, guys. We can have fun with this. Leave your hate comments below, or send them to badjuju@badjuju.com.
Something
Um,
like that.
yeah, exactly. But not only that, we've had like I mean, there's like a string of like really cool announcements that have been like kind of going through. I mean, we know that Daisy Ridley is going to come back to the whole Jedi universe.
Oh,
So we know that's happening.
okay.
Um, so I think it's going to be like really cool to kind of see some of this new stuff that's like happening all around us. Um, along, with this kind of movie news and everything else, I think it's like really important to take a moment to reflect on how amazing like the horror industry has kind of locked in, these awesome movies. Like
Yeah.
Stephen King, for the first time in a long time, did really well um, with his most recent adaptation, The Monkey, which
Hmm.
is actually dominated in one of the highest grossing horror movies of 2025. And I know we're still into
Oh, really?
2025, even though it doesn't really feel that way. Um, and for Stephen King, it's definitely a win because I feel like a lot of his adaptations have sadly taken a backseat to a lot of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're absolutely excited about that. Also, I know that this has been going around for a little while, but Marvel is rumored to be developing an X-Men TV series, which will focus on the young mutants at Xavier's School of Gifted Youngsters.
Hmm.
So it's something that has been kind of like floating around. So like X-Men news has been kind of like making the rounds here recently. So just some really cool stuff.
Yeah, and with Marvel, we've already had a look into what it could be, and sadly, it's
Hmm.
bringing back the original, which I never have an issue with if they're a cameo like Deadpool and Wolverine. Won't say anything even though the
Yeah.
movie's been out for a while, but Deadpool and Wolverine. But in the
Hmm.
Marvels, Beast had showed up, the original actor for Beast from I can not remember the movie's names, but from the original X-Men universe from Fox.
Oh, yes,
And uh
yes.
and it's interesting that we're going to be getting that. My only issue is whenever it comes to bringing back like let's say let's just pick someone out in your head and imagine they cameoed. Uh in their like
Gotcha.
70s playing their role again. It imagine they get
How do
sick
you
or
explain that?
some yeah, how do you explain it?
How do you explain the time gap and everything else? Yeah, I mean, well, it's a movie. You're going to have your kind of suspension of disbelief, and sometimes there's like things that you can do to go ahead and kind of push that aside. But
Yeah.
like I said, I'm excited to see all these new revelations of everything. So that about wraps our movie news. Our movie and slightly geeky news for this week. I know that there's a lot more going on, but we do have a very special guest coming up here, which we're absolutely 100% excited about in just a second. But also, I want to remember. I don't want to remember. I want to remind you guys that coming soon, we do have some really prolific writer, an award-winning writer with us, who's going to be talking about the art of writing. Also, we have some like a comedian who's going to be coming on here in future episodes. Not only that, but we just locked in a power couple who we're going to be talking to here in a few weeks, which I am super excited about. Um, Not only that, but we're kind of working on some additional things. I want to get some different people here from different realms. We're also going to go ahead and do that interview with Josh Holland, who unfortunately got sick last time. Marketing and museum director. I think he'll be awesome because he's going to
It
be
should be
able
a
to
fun
talk
one.
about how he's put together like some of these really cool things at the Explorium in Mobile, Alabama. He's the director there of kind of like marketing director, and he's actually won awards, him and his team, for curating some really cool stuff. So, guys, you definitely want to stay tuned. You want to like, subscribe. Remember, the Chimichanga Talk Gold Card does give you extra bonus options for getting your chicken rentals from us. Remember, save that money because coffee prices are going up too. So,
I know.
yeah, exactly. Remember, you could always grind up those eggshells and then pass some water through them, and it makes absolutely horrible coffee.
It'll work
So,
though. They won't be able to tell the
yeah,
difference.
yeah, exactly. And guys, so here in just a moment, we're going to go ahead and bring on our next amazing guest.
You messed up a bit that time, but oh.
Okay.
All right. And folks, today we have a wonderful guest, and I'll let Juju go ahead and kind of lead this off.
Now, today we have a really special guest. Originally starting off with being a mime and slowly building his repertoire with being an award-winning author, of course an actor, and many other talents, I am very honored to introduce Gary Schwartz to the show.
Thank you,
Fan.
Bad Juju.
Now, Gary, here's one thing that a lot of people really don't know, but should know about you, is the fact that you started as a mime like troupe, right? With another person, correct? That's like how you
Well,
kind of
that
kicked
was
off your
later
career.
in my career. I started out as a solo mime when I was 13 years old. But when I went to LA in my late 20s, I met my partner Caleb Chung, and we became a comedy mime duo called Schwartz and Chung.
I
And yeah, go ahead, Juju.
I did see a few of the clips. I love the times you'd create sound effects for him. You'd be the little performer and you'd create the little sound effects for him and doing all that fun jazz with him.
Yeah, so you saw that on the Alan Thick of the Night show. Yeah, how we developed that, we were both in a mime troupe together called the Richmond Shepherd Mime Troupe, and we met in his class. And Richmond invited me and Caleb to join his mime company and got us work as mimes. And one of the jobs he got us was entertaining the non-English speaking tourists on the Queen Mary. The
Oh.
Down
Yeah.
in Long Beach, they had turned the Queen Mary uh, into a Hyatt hotel, but it was, also a tourist attraction. And
Mm.
so what they did is they stationed uh, mimes all over the ship so that the people who didn't understand the tour guides could at least get some entertainment. And I was stationed on the bow of the ship. I was called a zany bow mime. And Caleb, who was a really excellent mime, and his specialty was robot, animatronic robot. They dressed him up in a tuxedo, and they stationed him at one of the first class cabins that were on the tour. He would just stand there like this, like an animatronic robot, and then just start doing the waving and doing robotic things. And I was pulling ropes and doing walls and being silly on the bow. Um, it was a great job. We got paid by the hour really well, and it was wonderful. But it was also got boring after 8 hours of doing this and pulling ropes, going up a little,
I
and
could
making fun of people.
I could imagine so being on the boat. I mean, it sounds very nice. It's definitely an experience because you also get to travel a little bit whenever you're
No,
on the.
no, it was it
no,
was
remember,
just
it was
Oh,
stage.
it was a stage.
moored,
Oh,
it was
okay.
a hotel that was
Oh,
moored
okay.
in Long Beach, and it was just a tourist attraction at that point, you know.
Oh, okay. I get
Isn't
what
it
you mean.
like? Isn't it like one of the most haunted like ships now or something like that? That's like station. Is that the same Queen Mary? The one that's
No,
supposed to be.
the original Queen Mary, the big ocean liner, you know, it was
Mhm.
like the Titanic, you know, a big
Correct.
luxury ocean liner from the 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it's supposed to be haunted. Like,
I think
I
that
mean,
might have
I've
been
heard.
PR, you know.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that was another little like ship kind of. That was something else, I think. But I mean,
Oh, okay.
everything's haunted if you
I'm
try
probably
hard
getting the
enough.
two ships confused. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I got bored, and I was all wearing white makeup, you know, and wearing the sailor outfit and all of that. I got really bored, and the tour guides would come by, and they would just do the same spiel over and over with groups, you know. You're now on the bow of the ship. This part of the ship was kept off limits to all of Queen Mary's passengers. There's the anchor chain. It's 330 feet long. Each link is 220 pounds. Uh, you know, the anchor weighs 16 tons, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, there's Queen Mary's Daimler limousine. It's painted black now, but and when she was alive and touring, it was a royal purple. Anyway, so that's the spiel. I got really bored, and the tour guides were usually pretty stoned.
I mean, you gotta get the
And
job done somehow. It's a
they were
very.
bored too. So I said, you know, at this point, I was so bored being a mime. I said, you know, let me grab the microphone and I'll just do my Jimmy Stewart impression.
Can we be privy to that? Can you?
Sure. So I would say, well, ladies and gentlemen, you're now on the bow of the ship. Now, the part of the ship was kept off limits to all of Queen Mary's passengers. Now, here's the anchor. It weighs 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day. Well, never mind. And then there's her limousine. She used to drive around in that thing. It was painted purple. Now it's painted black. She's dead, I suppose. And anyway, so you know, I would just joke around and everything. So I got really bored, and I would wander down to where Caleb was, who was a very energetic and serious mime. And there was he was in the first class cabin, and he was, you know, and the tour guides would come by and they would pick up the microphone and say, "This is a first class suite, blah blah blah." And there's Caleb is there, you know, like pouring a champagne or whatever. So in between the tours, I would sneak into the first class cabin and I would hide in the closet. And I would watch Caleb and if tourists came by, I would just in the microphone go, "Hello, friends. Why don't you stop and say hello to me?" And Caleb would just move his mouth. And so I would be Caleb's voice.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay, so that's
And
where that
so,
started.
so then Caleb would do things like, cut his fingers off, like a mime, and I would go, he'd pull his thumb off, and I'd make the noises and sound effects. Anyway, so that's how we developed our act.
Mm.
But eventually I got caught and got fired.
No.
Oh,
I mean, you entertained them
well,
long enough, at least. You definitely
Yeah,
made a lot of memories for people. That's for sure.
it was a
and
lot of fun. I had a blast.
and
Uh,
it's funny that you mentioned that Caleb was a robot because didn't he create the iconic
Yeah,
Furby in
yes, he
1998?
did. Yeah,
which that's a crazy thing you
yeah.
say. You were miming around with the now creator of the Furby. That's a
Kirby.
You
Well,
should.
Caleb used to do all of my special effects. In other words, or our special effects. When we would do the robot gig, he would build a little smoke bomb on the back of his jacket, and and then when he would start to go haywire, I would press a little button on the floor and he'd explode. Or we would do all these various fun special effects, but he loved to do that. He was really into making props and special effects for our act. And then we were both auditioning for a TV series called Zoobilee Zoo.
Mhm.
And then when I got the TV series and he didn't, and he was kind of not with a job at that moment, um, we were both working pretty well, doing animating costumes for Disney and what have you. But when I got Zoobilee Zoo, he kind of, our partnership kind of had to take a pause. So he went into his garage and he started building radio controlled robot cars.
Oh wow.
And that was at the beginning in the 90s of this phenomenon called robot wars.
Hmm.
So what he did is he built one of the first champion robots, a thing called the Beetle,
Oh,
which
okay.
out of an electric powered wheelchair motor. And he entered it in the robot wars and won against all of these flame throwing, chainsawing, things. He just had this square thing with a forklift. Anyway, so he was just building these cool animatronic robot things. Anyway, that got him a job at Mattel Toys.
Yeah.
So at Mattel Toys, he was like in the toy designing business with all of these nerdy engineers, who
Mhm.
were there to try to think of fun toys for kids. They could think of cool things to build, but but Caleb was unique because we were children's entertainers. So not only did he know what to build, but he knew what was fun for kids. And so
Yeah.
he got, like, while he was at Mattel, he got like 20 patents on all sorts of toys. He invented a hair wrapping machine. He did a lot of the McDonald's press and play, like hamburger makers and all of
Yeah.
these weird little,
yeah.
all owned by Mattel. Well, when Tamagotchi came out, he said, I want to invent like a Tamagotchi that could just be your friend. And so he left Mattel and he got a programmer to work with him and he just worked on his own freelance and came up with the Furby. And suddenly it became like the hot toy of 1998 and
Oh
he
yeah.
was
And then the rest is history.
the rest
Yeah.
is history.
Now, Gary, I wanted to ask you something because you were in the Jeffersons, right?
That was my
Uh,
very first union job. Yes,
correct. And you played a clown,
I played a
which
clown.
I know that
Oh yeah.
Bad Juju had a specific question about this because we were talking about this back and forth between clowns. So go ahead, Juju.
I did want to ask. I know you've been a mime, but there is a little clown and mime war. People who like I like mimes more or I like clowns more. And now you've played both. Now you played mimes more, but you've played a clown too. So I
I've
want
been a
to
clown. Yeah.
yeah. So I'd like to ask, what do you like more? Do you like clowns or do you like mimes? What is your like personal favorite when it comes to both their little talents, because both of them have different ideologies. With mimes being more silent and more, expressive, with clowns being focusing more on like little goofs and stuff like that. What would you prefer between the two, the little clown and mime war?
Well, my mime work was very clownish.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my heroes was Red Skelton. I don't know if you remember Red Skelton from the 1950s,
I do.
60s.
I think so.
He
Yeah.
he may not.
I may not, but I think
Anyway,
he's told me a little bit about him.
Red Skelton used to have this. He used to do these pantomimes on his TV show. He had a long-running TV show way back when I was a kid, and he would do these things called the silent spots. But he was also very famous for, well known as a TV clown. He had Freddie the Freeloader and all of these fun characters. So that's where I got my inspiration for being a mime. My mime is not that classic mime or even that super robotic mime. Mine was more free flowing and more clownish.
Mm.
But so I would say that I'm kind of a halfway between a clown and a mime.
So you're the in
But that,
between. You're the line between clown and mimery. You're in
yeah,
that in between.
my mime was very clowning aroundish.
Now,
But
you mentioned.
Caleb and my mime teacher, Richmond Shepard, were all three of us were on that episode.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Caleb played a waiter who did a front flip. He was a gymnast. And so he would just do a front flip and hand the menus to. And my mime teacher played the classic mime who was the maitre d'. And I was out of a job, but they said, we need a juggling clown. And luckily I could juggle. And so I said, I juggled. And they say, show us. So I took 3 ashtrays and I juggled them. And they said, okay, you got it. And that's how we
Nice.
both got that. And so Caleb and my mime teacher had no lines on the
Oh.
Jeffersons. But I'm juggling past George Jefferson. And George Jefferson is angry at Louisa's old boyfriend. And he says, look at here, clown. And I just turn to him and I go, yes. And he goes, not you, clown, this clown.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's fantastic.
that's
And
how I got my union card. That was my very first union job.
and it's funny. You go from there. And you mentioned it. Zoobilee Zoo, right?
Yeah.
65 episodes. A good piece of a lot of people's childhood, including my own.
Wow.
Good. And I remember, whatever you do not feel old. Okay, I used to watch. I still watch children's shows. So
Still a good show.
it absolutely is. It's iconic up there. Along with like Reading Rainbow and some of the other ones. And not only were you this, it seemed like a kind of arrogant, pompous, but yet goofy Fox actor. Kind of like theater thing. It seemed like it was a lot, like for the time. Can you just real quickly? I would love to not only get your insight on Zoobilee Zoo, but like how much makeup did you have to go through? How intensive was it getting ready for each of these 65 plus episodes?
Well, in the beginning, our makeup took like maybe 2 hours, but we got it down to about an hour, hour and a half.
Oh wow.
The prosthetic nose, and I had to wear these wigs on my head, and they glued ears to my scalp, and then they put 5 different wigs on to glue to my face, which I insisted upon because I didn't want to wear like a headgear, like a hat, like all of the other characters. I
Yeah.
wanted my character to really be flamboyant, and I thought, having real hair pieces would do the trick. And I got to work with a young makeup artist it was his first makeup job, prosthetic makeup job, a guy named Bill Corso. He was 19 years old. And if you look up Bill Corso now, he's an Oscar winner. He's done all of these fantastic movies. He did Stephen King's The Stand.
Oh wow.
He's very high up in the prosthetic makeup world. but he got his start on me. And I had loved prosthetic makeups because prior to doing Zoobilee Zoo, I was in the movie Quest for Fire.
Yep.
And Quest
As
for
you were
Fire,
like a part of a like a tribal chief? No.
no, I was the village idiot in the tribe.
Tribe. There you
Oh,
go.
I mean,
I was I was the keeper of the fire,
Yep.
and because and they kept me in a little cave, and I had the skill of being able to be an idiot savant, and I could keep the fire alive by stoking it. And so they just kept me alive in this cave, and uh, yeah. But my makeup, uh, I was prosthetic makeup, and we won the Academy Award that year for Best Special Effects Makeup. The very first year that was a category in the Academy Awards.
no.
Mm.
And anyway, so that when I got Zoobilee Zoo year later, uh, you know, uh, we had talked about rather than originally Hallmark wanted us to wear like heads,
Yeah.
Mm.
and then our voice would come out of mask. And we all rebelled against that, and they said, you're taking away our best attribute, which is our facial features. So we got them to agree just to put on a prosthetic nose and let us be actors.
I
And
mean,
that really did well for you guys because
It
that's
really,
the one of the because that's one of the things that kind of set you guys apart because it was more relatable. We can kind of like it's
yeah,
not Barney in a costume. This is people
exactly,
having emotions.
exactly. And I
Now,
remember getting the job and they, the audition said, Bravo Fox, imperious, impresario, egotistical, self-involved actor type, you know, but lovable.
but
that's a big
lovable.
key feature. Lovable.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sitting at the audition and I'm hearing all of these actors go in to read, and they're all doing these kind of great, I'm a thespian and an actor, and trying to be this, but they all sounded not lovable.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
just very showman. Very, very.
grandiose.
Hey, yeah,
Yeah.
who's gonna like this guy? So I thought of Ed Wynn, who was also one of my heroes.
Mm.
And the voice of Ed Wynn, he talked like this.
Uh huh.
My goodness, and he was called the perfect fool. So I went in and I said, I'm going to be this actor using this voice. And I said, this is a cute voice. You could just say, go screw yourself, and it would be fun.
Yeah, and it would be very. People will love it. If you told that to someone
And
in just in public, they'll probably
so
thank
I
you.
was, I could be as egotistical as I wanted, but as long as I had this voice, I was lovable. So I got the job.
And that is fantastic because it's like you put your own twist on something and kind of like really listened to what they wanted and delivered
Well,
that, not just you know.
also, I'm glad the walls were thin that I could hear what the other actors were doing and went in and did something different.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
it's always good to be kind of the one that stands out when it comes to auditions. Be the one that kind of
Absolutely.
sells it more, especially if you improv with that. Which, speaking of, you have a lot of talent when it comes to improv. You are really, really amazing with it, and that also comes
Thank
from
you. Thank you.
miming and clowning. And if
Well, luckily, I met the woman who invented improvisational theater in America. Her name was Viola Spolin.
oh,
And she became my dearest friend and my mentor. And literally, I owe a lot of my ability as an actor to training in her improv class.
that must have been amazing to be there when improv was starting to kind of be called improv. It was starting to get its
Find its wings, right?
yeah.
Well, it had found its wings in the generation before me, but I was sort of second generation. The first generation of improvisers were very famous. They began something called the Second City in Chicago.
Yes.
and the actors who were in the very first improv troupe were people like Alan Arkin, Alan Alda, Ed Asner, Valerie Harper,
Hmm.
Mike Nichols, and Elaine May, who are probably the superstars of improv.
Hmm.
And
And if you ever
oh
look up
no.
Nichols and May, Mike Nichols went on to become a famous director, obviously. He
Mm.
Hmm.
directed things like The Graduate and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and
Wolf. Yeah.
fantastic movies, Angels in America. I mean, but before that, he was an improvisational actor,
That's
and he became a
absolutely.
yeah, he
That's no,
became
because I was gonna say it's absolutely incredible. Like all these little pieces of just Hollywood history that you're touching along the way. Um, that your
it's
life has like branched out to.
it's I sometimes think about that I'm part of that in that in that neighborhood of people who were my heroes, and I got a
Yep.
chance to meet many of them, and consider myself. I was, consider them some of them my friends,
Absolutely.
and wow, So yeah, I feel like I got very lucky and fell into that group.
Yeah, that.
And I'm curious because like you also in Zoobilee Zoo you were able to write an episode of
Yeah,
Zoobilee Zoo, right?
yeah, I did.
Is that how you got your like start with writing, or were you writing before that, or?
No, Caleb and I would write our own material, and we
Hmm.
were writing. We wrote a TV pilot for ourselves called "The World of Schwartz and Chung," to kind of, go up against like Pee Wee's Playhouse, and we were these weird mimes, and so we were. I tried to write my. Everybody in Hollywood writes a screenplay, at least one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tried my hand. I wrote some pretty bad ones.
You
but
gotta
But
start
because
somewhere.
I was on Zoobilee Zoo and I knew the Bible, what they call the Bible, the whole backstory of the show,
hmm.
and I knew the characters midway through the shooting. I said, can I write let me see if I can write an episode. And the episode I wrote was called Bravo's Puppets,
Hmm.
and I enlisted Caleb to help me design and build the puppets.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah.
And
So like
that's
a little kickback. He didn't make the show, but he got to participate in some way.
Oh, and he was a guest star on the show in one
Hmm.
episode. Yeah.
okay.
Oh, okay.
So he did get a little bit of. He got to be in there a little bit, and
A
that's really
little
Well,
a
look,
little
nice.
Zoobilee Zoo magic.
when you're partners, you don't step over people. You want
Oh
everybody to
yeah.
come along with you.
Yeah, of
Oh,
And he
course.
absolutely.
and I had, in 1980, we had done a TV show for the Disney Channel. The very first year, the Disney Channel was a cable channel called You and Me Kid, and Caleb and I did 120 episodes of a thing called You and Me Theater, where we
Huh.
would, and this was for preschool kids. Very hard to find. I have videos of me and Caleb doing You and Me theater, and we did and it was a great gig. So yeah, Caleb and I go way back. We're still friends.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Mm.
And being able to go ahead and write, because the thing is you are an award-winning author, right, for
Well,
children's
I
book.
wrote I wrote one book, and it was sort of the book I had to write. And yeah,
Okay, so let's talk about that, because Gigi, you got your copy
Oh yeah, I have it right here that you gave me.
and signed
Long,
for him
long
many years
ago.
ago.
Yeah, long. You have your little signature right here.
oh
The
yeah.
king of average. I don't even know how long. I'm not even gonna get into it because it's not only gonna make you feel old, but me too. Because I'm starting to
He was
get there where
younger.
I'm starting to feel older. A lot of people are
Well,
starting to
you'll
call me
read it
old.
to your kid.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. But
And
I love the book so much. It is a beautiful book. I have
Thank you.
read it
Thank
a
you.
few
Thank you.
times, and it took me a bit because when I was younger, I was still learning. So being able to read it and read it again to really process the book. It is amazing what you did there. And I, I'm
You know,
gonna, yeah, I'm gonna let you take the stage because I know you had some things you want to
well,
touch up on.
you just mentioned it right now that it's something that you had to write
Yeah.
because it's kind of like it's based off of you, right? Growing up.
Yeah, it's basically kind of a fantasy version of not my childhood necessarily, but the psychological, if you grow up in an less than idyllic situation,
Mm,
Hmm.
um, you're affected by it. Your childhood becomes something. Uh, Everybody's childhood has problems and everything like that.
Hmm.
I had kind of an unfortunate childhood, I would say. I made the best of it, and certainly, found my sort of armor, or my shield, was the fact that I could make the bullies laugh
Yeah.
and kind of forestall being picked on that way. Although I was picked on and all of that stuff, but uh, it affected me. And then, I had psychological issues growing up, and that bled into my adulthood. But when I got into therapy and found my way through and broke the pattern of that
Hmm.
traumatic childhood. A lot of kids, believe it or not, suffer from PTSD,
Hmm.
mm,
and it comes out in a lot of ways: drug use, bullying, suicide, so many different ways. Mine
Yeah.
came out the fact that I was alone a lot, and I had a good imagination, and so I read a book called The Phantom Toll Booth. That was a
Yes.
very important book in my life. And The Phantom Toll Booth was sort of like a 1960s updated version of Alice in Wonderland, about a bored little boy who finds a toll booth in his room and drives through it into the lands beyond, where Digitopolis and Dictatopolis, the world of numbers and the world of words, are at war with each other. And the princess's rhyme and reason have been abducted. And
Mm.
it's a lot of puns and visual words, word play. And I love that book.
mm,
And so I thought, when I was 11 years old, I suffered from very bad self-esteem. And, my parents told me how terrible I was and what a burden I was and all of this stuff. And I remember having a conversation with myself, walking home from school one day, and I said to myself, geez, I'm not that bad.
Mm.
mm.
But another voice in my head said, well, you're not that great.
Yeah, that kind
Ah,
of conflicting
the,
little
the,
the
yeah,
little
the,
devil on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder,
Exactly, exactly.
And I can only imagine how hard that could have been. I know there's a lot of people who sadly have those issues. And
Yeah,
the most fascinating thing that comes with not only your book, but just people who speak out about that is people get to. And it comes with shows and movies too. People get to connect to not only maybe an actor, but to a writer, to a personal level without even speaking to them in person, saying, I had that issue too. So that's
sure.
why your beautiful is your book is so beautiful to me because it,
Thank
it
you.
it
Thank
gives that kind of like, wow, there's people who have issues too, and maybe it wasn't exactly like his, but there's people who suffer a lot in this world, and the best thing is we can all kind of just, I wouldn't say share, but like we share our experience to help others. uh, so it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I wanted to find a way to, say, so when I had this little conversation with myself, I said, well, look, the best I could probably be is average. I said, that's not so bad. And they go, yeah, well, it's not great. But then I said, what if I became the most average person who ever lived? And then that made me laugh at 11 years old. And I said, well, wait a minute. If I was the most average, I would not be average. I would be exceptional.
exactly.
Mm,
And that little paradox got me thinking. And then I said, I'm going to write a book one day about that in the vein of a Phantom Toll Booth, and use all of those puns and everything like that. And I told the story to my friends for years and years and years until I was in my 50s.
Mhm.
And finally, a friend of mine said, "Look, why don't you write this down? It's so fascinating and it's so interesting." I said, not good. So anyway, he challenged me, and I wrote the book and
And it's a
gave it
great,
to friends.
yeah, it's a
And it was
great thing you did.
terrible. It was terrible.
Oh, really?
I mean, you gotta, like I said earlier, you gotta have a start somewhere. You gotta have that little like,
Yeah.
that little
No, but
play.
that's when I decided, I said, well, I really would like this to be a good story. And so I got a writing coach, and I spent about a few years really, working with the writing coach and editor,
Mm.
and rewrote the book many times until he finally emailed me saying, "Congratulations, you have a book."
Mm.
And then that's why the book, won some awards, because it, you just can't write out a book.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's got to be something people would like to read, and making it readable is the skill of an author. And I got to tell you, I'm not a natural born author. I write a lot of things, but it's a very arduous job to be a good author.
No,
Yeah.
I can imagine. And the thing is another great piece about your book is that it tells stories to generations. So for one, like when Juju was younger, right? It told one story to him and affected him in one way. But as an adult, if you read it, right, it tells a separate story. It tells you, and I think it's throughout when you transcend time like that, like the Phantom Toll Booth. I remember the
Yeah,
Phantom Toll Booth was, kind of required reading back and forth fifth grade for me
yeah.
because of the elements. But if you look at it now, and it's talk about war and its effects on everything as a whole, even though it's imagination, right? It's different viewpoints and it affects you in different ways, but it's still relevant to each portion of your life.
Well, childhood is universal, and so
Yeah.
books like The Phantom Toll Booth inspired me. I'm sure Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland inspired Norton Juster in the
Hmm.
same way that films like Inside Out are
Mm.
inspiring kids now.
Yeah.
Childhood problems of childhood are always going to be, that's just growing up. But if you can capture an essence of that, then yeah, you can help some kids out, I think. And
Yeah.
I feel very
Absolutely.
proud of my book for doing that. Certainly, my personal journey, I think, look, if I could get out of it and find a way through to become uh, whole and love myself, anybody can.
Mm.
Exactly. That's beautifully word said. And I want to touch on something else, and this is going to be more into Julian's territory, right? Juju's territory. Um, you have voiced many different characters right here just now. I mean, that goes into your whole improv thing. And I remember one of the first times we saw you, I think, or that I remember seeing you, was back with an old live action video game, um, where you played yourself. I'm pretty sure like in a world full of green screen. Uh, Juju, what was that again?
Uh, the
The
Jungle
Jungle
Book,
Book.
Yeah, the
1996.
Jungle Book.
Uh,
And you remember his character?
Colonel Iguan, right? I keep messing it up.
Ilguam.
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 That's always, it's
Ilguam.
always gives me like a little tongue twister. And
Well, if you read the Jungle Book, the main character in the Jungle Book is Mowgli,
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
which is Ilguam backwards.
Backwards. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh wow, I am actually piecing that together. I didn't even realize that. I didn't realize that until now. You just gave me that. I just kind of put it in my head. I just actually flipped it over
For
in my
him, it's
head.
just mind blown.
You actually blew my mind. You blew my mind many times already with your book, and now to kind of move into it, since we're talking about Jungle Book, uh, of course, the one thing that a lot of people always talk to you about, Team Fortress, when it comes to Demo Man, who you ended up getting the voice from Iguan, and kind of bringing that in to help you knock out the character that now people can recognize. I'd say one of the most iconic voices now, which
Here we go. Getting into character.
now
What
you
are
get a
you
second.
talking about, you fool?
So, tell me, because the thing is in the video game, right? In the Jungle Book, you played a bunch of different characters,
Yeah.
right? Well, not. You played that character in a live action, so you were in a lot of parts of the game, with your chimpanzee friend, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Never worked
because
with a chimp before.
yeah, that's the thing. It
That
was
must
a
have been
real
fun.
live chimp. I can only assume is a green screen scenario, right?
It was
Was
it
that?
was partially green screened, and it was partially they would build little mini sets behind me. And
Mm.
so, like when I'm walking through the jungle, I'm actually walking on a treadmill, and people
Oh,
outside the frame of the cameras are like moving bushes in front of me and past me. It
and
was
that's
it was it was very low tech, but it was very high tech for the time, 1992. This is before the
yeah,
internet, basically.
Mm.
yeah, and that was one of the innovations that was just like, wow, this, because at that time it was just starting to take off. There were like very
Yeah,
few titles that had live action involved
right.
into it with
There
part
were
of the game.
mostly puzzle games, puzzle solving games
Hmm.
like Fool's Errand and Myst.
Missed, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you jump from there, right? And I mean, you've voiced quite a few different things that you're credited for, some that you're not, right?
yeah.
So it's like your face kind of disappeared and was replaced by animation
Yeah.
and these characters. Um, and so, how do you find inspiration for like some of these voices that you do that are just they're so you know how sometimes you're like, okay, I know this person because I can hear it. This is them in there, but no, it's like everything is different. Everything has a slight difference to it where it's like, is that Gary? Hmm.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I mean, a lot of my heroes were voice actors, and I grew up watching animation, and
Hmm.
Rocky Bullwinkle, were some of the greatest voice actors in the history of cartoons.
Yep.
Scott, Hans Conried, Paul, uh, oh gosh, forgotten his name now, but June Foray.
Hmm.
Mm.
Uh, they did all of the voices from Rocky and Bullwinkle, and they were all different and all fun.
Yep.
Mel Blanc,
Mel Blanc. Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely. He did like what was it like 90% of all of the Looney Tunes characters.
yeah, he did, yeah, he did. He was the man of a thousand voices.
Hmm.
I got to meet the man, Ducky Nash, who played Donald Duck.
Duck. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And then in my improv company, when I was doing improv in Los Angeles for about 10 years, one of my company players was Dan Castellaneta, who's the voice of Homer
from
Simpson,
Homer
and
Simpson.
many,
Yeah.
many other voices. So yeah, I mean, uh,
Again,
again,
remember
my
touching
hero.
Hollywood. Little pieces of everything that you've been a part of, which is
Yeah,
absolutely amazing. But Team Forces 2,
yeah.
right? And we say it's iconic because to this day, it is still one of the largest games that's played. It's one of those.
17 years later, this is just an amazing thing.
And not only is it still thriving with so many people still hearing your voice every day, every minute, but it also created a lot of childhoods for people. Even though it's not really a child's game, a lot of people play it in their childhoods because it's their
Sure.
teen-rated game and they want to hide it from their parents. But Team Fortress was definitely a very big impact on a lot of people's lives, and
Yeah.
I am curious, what do you think when you think of Team Fortress when you realize you really grew up with a lot of people, and some people don't even know your face when it comes to that. They know the voice, and that's a crazy thing that comes with voice acting. What do you
Yeah.
think whenever you think of all these people who grew up with you
And
without?
you know what? The way I had my heroes in my childhood, Bill Scott and Mel Blanc and all of the great voice actors of the 1950s and 60s. Um, and all of my heroes, Red Skelton and Dick Van Dyke and all of those guys.
Mm,
Um, to know now that I've done that same thing for the generation in front of me, that
mm,
people come up to me and they say, "Wow, you're such a huge part of my childhood." From Zoobilee Zoo on forward. It's an honor. I feel really grateful. The fact that I had wanted always as a kid. I said, "That's what I want to do." I would watch TV and I say, "I want to do that." And then now I'm doing it, and then hopefully I'm inspiring other kids who are looking at me saying, "I want to do that."
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was one of those kids. I grew up a lot around tech, uh, and it would come with shows and movies and everything, games. I'd hear these voices and I never knew who voiced them. I usually just thought they just kind of popped in there. That's what I thought as a little kid. They just showed up. It wasn't no one voiced it, but then I started to realize those are people behind those voices. There are
Yeah.
people who did that. I was like, man, these people, they don't even know me. They don't know who I am, but they served a big impact to me, and
Yeah.
they really carried me through. And you were a part of that. You carried me through my childhood with, again, your
Wow.
book.
Yeah.
And so it really does, these small things that you do.
Uh,
Well,
that to me is the real icing on the cake, because it's a goal achieved for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two goals I wanted is, I said, can I make a living being in show business? And my parents would tell me nobody makes a living in show business. And I said, well, some people do. The people I watch on TV do.
Yeah.
And they just told me it was impossible. And so I believed it for a long time. But uh,
Yeah. And like I said, if you look at your life and how much it's touched as far as like, in Hollywood history, like, the whole reason that he met you originally was, I was an MC for conventions along the way. And I remember you from Zoobilee Zoo. And I remember that what they were pushing really hard was the fact that you were the voice, in Team Fortress 2. You voiced these major characters with Bad Juju was playing at the time as a smaller kid.
yeah,
Um, and then I knew about your book, and he was always interested in reading, interesting things. So I took him to meet you, not necessarily because of the voice, because even though he knew it, he didn't really grasp it.
yeah.
But we got to meet you because of your book and because of your impact on my childhood,
Wow.
which has now moved into an
New
impact on his
generation.
childhood.
two
There you
generations
Yeah.
you've
go.
inspired, and
Wow.
you've changed. You've
Now, did I
And
meet you in Florida at Pensacola Comic Con?
Yeah, I think
it
it
was
was.
we met in Pensacola, but we also no, it was in the Okaloosa one. There was an
Oh
Okaloosa
yeah.
one that was a gaming convention as well. That's
Okay.
where we met.
Well,
Um,
I remember sitting at that first comic. That was my first Comic Con. And I remember sitting at the table, and I brought all of my Zoobilee Zoo pictures and my
mhm.
Team Fortress 2 things and my book and what have you, And I had never been to a Comic Con before. And all of these other celebrities were there at Autograph Row, selling their
Yeah,
autographs.
yep,
Mm.
And I was sitting at my little table, and everybody was just passing me by, going, "Who are you? Who are you?"
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was a younger crowd. It was a
It
younger
was a
crowd
very
because
younger crowd, and they had,
yeah,
they were there to see the other people who, other games that I didn't even know about. But anyway, so people would look at me, and finally, I said, "I was big in the '90s."
Yeah. I remember because we did I emceed the cosplay contest at the time, and right towards the end I was like, Juju, you got to meet this guy. You don't understand. It's like when I took my older son to meet the original man in the suit for Boba Fett, right? Everybody was passing him by. I'm like, you're passing by this icon, right? And I know it doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but talk to them. This is a great opportunity. And then, I remember Bad Juju was like super nervous about this interview. And I'm like, Gary's the nicest guy. What, don't even worry about it because he's taking up the mantle, and he just really wanted to meet this just amazing person who, like I said, you've motivated his life in two ways between writing and your voice work. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Well, that is, look, that I'm paying it forward, and you're the payment makes me feel very good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're just like super honored to, like I said, take those moments to kind of just reflect on your history. And everybody, and I hope a lot of my listeners, they definitely know who you are. And a lot of my listeners, I always tell them, hey, listen, you got to pick up this book. We're going to put a link down below. Make sure that you get this. And even if you have like a little one who's not at the edge yet, get them this book because it's going to be important for them later in life. These issues just don't go away.
Yeah. Well, and I did the audio book of it, and I'm very happy with the way that turned out. I've also got new artwork, so the book has been revised with new artwork.
Oh.
Cool.
So the new edition is on sale now, and I'm very pleased with it. And I've been working on a sequel, but again, I'm at that stage where I just want to throw it in a drawer and never look at it again. But eventually it'll come out.
That's writing.
Well, let us be the push to tell you, hey, take it out that drawer, just dust it off a little bit because some of us are kind of counting on it. So, hear it from your fans, because your friends can tell you one thing, they can tell you all day long to go ahead and push you, but if you can see the impact, and that's great, because sometimes we are blind to the impact of our work.
No, I'm not blind to it. I just know that it's a lot more work to make it as good a book as the first book was. That's the next step is the rewriting, and that's going to take a couple of years.
Well,
if I have the energy.
Well, and that's why you get editors and all them fun people, get them to help you along your journey. But I would be thrilled to see that because, like
wonderful.
I said,
that's wonderful. Well, keep pushing the first book because it's a good book, stands on its own, and I think it has a good message, especially for kids with poor self-esteem, and shows that there's hope.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Like I said, it definitely did give me a lot of hope whenever my head was down. It definitely helped me bring my head back up. So if that's to help any push, you did help me with this first book. This book definitely helped me out a lot.
Thank you so much.
Now I want to ask you a couple things. Like we do play like a game on here, right? And we call it the who the how, right? The who the how, or the how. It's one of those two. The how, the who the how. Basically, we're going to take something that's somewhat in your wheelhouse, and we're going to go ahead and ask you a couple questions. We don't expect you to know all the answers, right? But we think it would be fun just to kind of give our listeners a little bit of insight on some of the stuff that may have had an impact in your life. So, do you mind playing?
No.
All right, fantastic. So, we're going to go ahead and talk about mimes. I think it's mimes. We're just going to go ahead and talk about mimes. And most of these questions will revolve around that. Like I said, I don't expect you to know every answer, but, just for fun. Now, the mime has been around for a really long time. Now, actually, they say the 5th century BC. Now, where did the mime originate from? I'll give you a
Pantomime?
hint. It wasn't the Queen Mary.
No, I know that. Are you talking about modern-looking mimes or like the ancient mimes?
Ancient mimes. These are mimes, like mummies, but
Well, I got to tell you, I was in a movie called Quest for Fire,
yep.
and they originally wanted mimes because they could communicate without language.
Hmm.
But most mimes are terrible actors. So, but if you look at that movie, after the quest is over, they're sitting around the fireplace, and Ron Perlman is gesturing, talking about how they named the woolly mammoths and all of that stuff, and that's mime. I would say 80,000 years ago
Okay, so it actually they say that it originated in ancient Greece
in Greece.
in
Yeah.
the 5th century BC.
Yep.
So I mean, not as far, but I mean, they do originate like a lot of actors and stuff like that. So they chalk it back to 5th century
Sure.
Greece. Now,
The Greek chorus and people holding the masks, and yet I get that.
exactly. Now, do you know what's one of the most famous mimes? What his name was?
Marcel Marceau?
Exactly. He was a famous French mime. Now, here's the thing. He was a professional mime for over 60 years, right?
Yes.
Now, he was also known for this clown character that he created. Do you know what the name of the clown? Yeah, there you go. Pip the Clown. Absolutely correct.
I have his autograph.
Oh,
Do you?
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we got to see this.
Yeah, I actually am pretty curious on this. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Oh, it still holds. I'd always be
Yes.
worried about autographs.
I was 12 years old.
Oh my god.
What?
To Gary, Marcel Marceau, the little flower.
It's written in the French accent, isn't it, Gary?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It came right out.
That's
Now,
amazing.
He was a big influence. Absolutely.
yeah, and he was the basically the go-to model,
Well,
whiteface.
his
Hmm.
teacher was, I think, the first classically trained, or invented that sort of modern French pantomime.
Mhm.
And his teacher was a man named Etienne de Creux.
Etienne de Creux.
Etienne de Creux. And if you watch a movie called Les Enfants du Paradis, The Children of Paradise, by Marcel Marcel Carnet, it is the Gone with the Wind of French movies.
Oh wow.
And it tells the story of a French mime um, played by a French actor named Jean-Louis Barrault, who was also a masterful mime. And Etienne de Creux, his teacher, has a small part in that movie. But it's
Oh
a
wow.
fantastic movie if you ever want to see an amazing film. Watch Les Enfants du Paradis, Children of Paradise.
Wow.
I'll have to
Now
check that out.
that is really awesome, and we'll go ahead and kind of. I'm pretty sure we can link that below, so that way you guys can kind of go ahead and find it.
Yeah,
Now,
it's a classic movie about a French mime in 1890s Paris.
oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely gonna have to see. We could link it like a little like IMDb or something like that. Something with the movie so you can check it out because that's. I'm actually now curious about that. I'm gonna actually make that my movie tonight. I'm gonna check that out tonight.
It's an epic film. It's an epic film. It was the only film the Germans allowed the French to make during the occupation.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay. That's actually a
That's
fun.
interesting.
That's a fun
And
Okay,
fact.
they
so you're schooling us now.
the Germans told the French, the movie makers, you can make movies, but you cannot make it about anything political.
Hmm.
Hmm.
They said, well, we're going to tell the story of this romantic story of a mime in 1890s Paris. They said, that's fine. But what they didn't realize is that Marcel Carnet said, I'm going to hire every actor ever living in France. And not only that, they are going to all have their own costumes personally stitched by the best costume makers. So literally, it's a cast of 10,000, and it is they drained the French treasury to make this movie
Oh
as a
wow.
screw you to the Germans.
To Germans, yeah. That way they couldn't touch that money, but they have a wonderful film.
And
So,
it's an amazing it's an amazing film. The crowd scenes are you've never seen anything like it, and
especially
it's
not in
not
old
AI
Hollywood.
generated.
That's
Oh
the
no,
most important
definitely
thing.
not. Yeah,
It's practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is
Now-
It's all
before.
it's there's 10,000 extras.
Oh God, that is
That is just crazy.
I
Now-
need to watch it.
You mentioned film, right? And we want to kind of go back to that. Now, there are like three people that are synonymous with kind of carrying the spirit of the mime into film, early film. Many more actually, but still, these three iconic names, especially when dealing with comedy, make their rounds again and again. Can you name any one of these three iconic?
Charlie Chaplin, Buster
Yep.
Keaton,
Mhm.
Harold Lloyd.
Yep, there you go. All three.
Mhm.
They were expressive in their face. They knew exactly how to draw emotion and how to go ahead and use body language. You got another autograph, don't you, Gary?
Oh,
Not an autograph. This is a life mask of Buster
Oh.
Keaton.
Keaton. Oh wow.
that's actually amazing. That's fascinating to see.
So
Oh.
where did you get that?
They had to make a mask for a mold for a prosthetic makeup. This is later in his life,
Yeah.
and so I went to an old movie poster shop, and they were selling these casts of his face.
That is absolutely that's crazy because it's like a lot of people don't understand that back in the day exactly that must have been excruciating
Yeah,
to sit in these
suffocating.
yeah
I've had life masks made of me for I had to have one done for Bravo Fox and all of that stuff.
yeah so that way they could go ahead and do the prosthetics. How was that? I'm just curious.
Oh, it's interesting, to make a life mold of your face. You have to you put on the you lather your face in Vaseline,
Mhm.
and then you put on then they put on the plaster of Paris,
Mhm.
and then you put straws in your nose, and you lie perfectly still and until it hardens.
Now, did you find it relaxing? Some people say they find it claustrophobic and somewhat frightening. Did you find it relaxing?
I find it pretty relaxing as long as you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I told Bill Corso this story. My very first prosthetic makeup job was, of course, Quest for Fire.
Hmm.
And the makeup artist who didn't end up getting the job, but when it was a 20th Century Fox film, we went to London, and I got to get a makeup done by Christopher Tucker, who did the makeup for the Elephant Man.
Yep.
And so we went to his mansion in English countryside, and very interesting, very, British fellow. And they put me into this big, mask, they encased my face. And they said, now you just wait here. And I'm leaning back and letting it set. And then suddenly I hear, like right next to me, like right here, somebody starting up a chainsaw. And I'm like, what's going on? He said, not to worry, not to worry. It's just when you know, this is how we're going to get it off of you. And they were just joking around. But when you're encased in plaster of Paris and you hear a chainsaw go off next to your head,
especially when you've got such a good imagination like you do, right?
Oh God, yeah. All the different scenarios that fly by your hair, not hair, your head.
Now, what another interesting little sidelight, and I think I have pictures of me posted up. I got to play Buster Keaton in a Toyota commercial in Japan.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you think it still exists somewhere on YouTube?
I was about to say, do you think it's archived somewhere?
Do I look like him?
You do look pretty close.
You do.
Dude, you got a bit of the. Yeah, I can see it.
Go.
I'm looking.
I can see it.
I have to like look back and forth. Yeah, you got it. You definitely have the face. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You could definitely be confused for a twin. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, it was fun to do. This Toyota commercial in Japan. That was a very exciting time. But I was much younger. People were worried because I was too tall and they didn't want me originally.
Yeah, because you're 6. What is it?
6'2".
6'2"?
Oh
yeah,
my God.
6'2".
You towered me when I was a kid. And you still tower over me.
Yeah, he towered over most of the actors.
They finally said, you know what? We'll just build everything a little bigger and make him to scale.
Make him to scale. Now, one last thing that I want to ask you. Normally, I close out the show, right? Normally, I'm the one who kind of like says everything else. But I would love it if you could close out the show 4 times for me out of 4 different characters that you pick and choose which ones you want to do. Doesn't matter. But all you have to do is say, thank you so much for listening to Chimichanga Talk. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
You got it?
Sure.
Here we go. The great Gary Schwartz. Closing out.
Thank you for listening to Chimichanga Talk. We see you next time. До свидания.
Awesome.
All right, mates. Before you turn this thing off, you've got to know that this is Demo Man wishing you a great time listening to Chimichanga Talk. Now get out of here.
That's great.
Well, obviously, I've had just the most delightful time here at Chimichanga Talk. You've been listening to Chimichanga Talk with Chimichanga himself and me, Bravo Fox. See you next time.
That is.
Well, now. This has been a lot of fun. Playing actor and author with Chimchiree. Well, no, what's your name again? Chimichanga and Bad Juju. I remember that because I remember those little juju bees. You ever have juju bees? They're delicious little candies that you pull the fillings right out of your teeth there, but they're tasty. Anyway, see you around.
Thank you for listening this week, and remember, just like always, we will be back next week with another great guest and more adventures from the land of Chimichanga Talk. So tune in next time, same Deadpool time, same Deadpool channel.